Did.
Hello and welcome to Galactic Goddess Podcast. I'm your host, Radhanelia, and today we have a very special guest, my dear friend, Caroline. She is an incredible intuitive. She is a channel and a ceremonial tool maker. She is an author in Awakening Starseeds, Volume 3, Dreaming into the Future, and I'm so honored to know this Galactic Priestess. Welcome, Caroline.
Radha, thank you. It's so sweet to be here. I love your presence on the earth and I love your work. And I'm looking forward to rifting.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm really excited because we've been having these conversations and I was like, we need to do a podcast because we've been talking about the galactic human DNA history, and that is such a loaded conversation. So we're just going to rift. And if you want to just join us, sit back and relax, and we're going to have this conversation. So, Caroline, from your perspective, where are we with this galactic human DNA scenario? I know it's quite complex and we're quite in the mix of it at the moment.
We are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason it's fun to talk to you is because you are aware of your galactic origins and your ties to star seed systems, and both of us work with that knowledge innately in our work. So it's really fun to talk with you in that way. But where are we? I mean, let me just say, I don't know everything because we all come from so many different places in this multiverse, and we've arrived here, and our body of knowledge is, based on millions of years from being, protozoa and slime and algae and formless and formed. And here we are in a human having walked, millions of different forms in a hybrid. We're all hybrids. The only true earthling here is the bacteria and the virus and the stones, the rocks, the mountains, the water. Those were the original beings, but everything else that's come after that, and maybe even those things, maybe even the bacteria, is hybrid. So we're all hybrids, but some of us have a memory. Some of us are pulling lineages of different star systems or different star lineages. So it creates a very different kind of hybrid. And Hollywood is talking about these things. I just watched Eternals, and this discussion is nothing new. It's been part of human history and mythology for thousands and thousands of years. It's documented on rocks and stones and carvings that there's been hybrid activity. So we're just continuing in that journey. And so, so that's...
It is a very interesting journey. It is documented on so many of the old relics, from Egypt to the Mayans, even in some Christian traditions, like you'll see like the ships and you'll see the figures, and they're not human. And it's very interesting. It's a very interesting subject because there's a lot more coming out mainstream, like the possibility of life. And it's like, it's not just a possibility. It's we are that possibility in living and breathing form. And it's just incredible how we don't, like, as mainstream goes, we don't understand or know, like, really our origins. And that's where being an intuitive is really powerful, or doing certain things like hypnotherapy or quantum healing hypnosis. Like, you start to take the pieces of the puzzle and put them together in ways that make sense for you, for each person individually, because it's a very individualized journey as far as understanding our genetic coding. And for me, it really became apparent that that genetically I wasn't just this one genetic. Besides having parents from two different parts of the world, it's there's also another stream, streamlines coming in from both sides. And I think we all have that, what would you say when people start getting inklings about these cross genetics that they start feeling and sensing and actually having memories of?
Well, I think if you start with the premise that Earth is an open, it's an open system. There's no anything can come to the Earth. We're receiving meteorites and comets, and parts of the universe are plunging onto this Earth, and we don't even know. We might not even know that landed in the water and what it brought. And if you have the kind of the clear basis of understanding that most life here did not originate here, it's a combination of multiple sources, then it becomes, it's simply more about asking the question of, well, what are those sources for me?
Mm-hmm.
My first noticing what stars you're interested in the sky. We all have something we've noticed, but maybe we didn't know what the name was from when we were children. And those stars are courting us. And maybe we don't have a memory as a child, but when we go out, there will be a certain star that will court you. And so that's like a really good way. And there's these great little apps, like for $2.99, you can get an app, a star app, and then find out the name of it, and then kind of go down the little rabbit hole. Oh, what is the meaning? What have people said? And don't just look at one source, but look at multiple sources and see what they say about, that star and people who come from that star lineage, what they're like. And you might have several stars. Sirius has always caught my eye. Sirius is so beautiful. It travels across the sky and changes colors. It's the star that's red and blue, and if you see it in photographs, it leaves like a rainbow trail. And that, I actually embedded it into one of my Sirius.
Wow.
And the dwarf star, because I wanted something in this reality to kind of ground that relationship, to help remind myself and then now others that we have these relationships. But so I would start on a very practical level, because those stars are consciousnesses. There's consciousnesses radiating out of our own personal star, the sun, maybe. And we don't always not all beings out there have a humanoid form, but most of us in a human body right now are an intersection of humanoid travelers here that intersected with the human DNA and created some form of us. And that's so that would be one way to start. That's very practical. And then the other way is to ask. There's just so much. Right now the veils are lifting.
Yeah.
We are awakening. The apocalypse means the lifting of the veil. And it's time for us to remember what we truly are, which is incredibly adept, wise beings, most of us, but even those that don't act like it have a wisdom source somewhere in creation. And it's time, and particularly those folks who haven't awakened to their wisdom source, it's great for those who have to lead the way. So it's important for us to have those that think, there might be another body of knowledge or DNA or family or wisdom that I can call upon. It's almost your responsibility to take that in and carry it with you, so you can sort of awaken it in others, the collective, through a process of osmosis,
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Thank you for explaining the different ways that we can tap into that, because I think many are feeling inklings. There's that curiosity, this wonder, this draw towards a certain galactic lineage. And for some of us, there's multiple draws to different galactic lineages. And we did have this conversation earlier, like that, and this is a very loaded topic, because in this community that's been opening up, there's this assumption that all galactics are benevolent, and yeah, and so if you say anything about that, there can be triggers and anger. And I just wanted to really bring to the light that, you know, not every lineage is benevolent, you know, and that there are the same kind of contrasts that go on this earth go on in the other realms too, in the galactic realms, and that it's just very important to just say that. And it's even like, wow, because people always think, like, they always have like this pictures of the grays, and they're like, oh haha, yes, our soul family. And I I think at some point I will be sharing more about my experiences, because it's not always an experience that you can brag about or like, you know, be like, oh, you know, it's not always as lighthearted as we wish it would be. Like, we want the intelligence to be much more than us at times. Like, you know, we want that. We've been trained to have that savior syndrome. And I think we really need to have these conversations, as uncomfortable as they can be sometimes. It's not uncomfortable, but there's stigmas, because people that are in the community of the UFO community and stuff, they're always like, yeah, you know, anything is great. But that's just not the truth, you know. And just like, as I said earlier, we have both. Duality lives in these realms, right? In our realm, in space realm, like, there is duality. We can't deny that. So, you know, what would you have to say about that?
I think that's a really important thing to consider, a really important discussion. It intersects with ancestral work, and, you know, calling all your ancestors. And, you know, we actually live in a reality where we're all evolving. And, you know, you've seen my ancestral altar cloths. And
Yes.
I will say, in that 2046 ancestors, there's probably only 2 or 3 you really want to talk to.
Mhm.
Our ancestors, both in the human and in the cosmic, astral galactic realms. And when I say cosmic ancestors, these could be beings who are deities, or spiritual allies, or, you know, spirit guides. If you're involved with Earth in
Mhm.
this galactic system right now, you're on an evolutionary journey.
Yes.
There are very few beings that have worked it out entirely, very few consciousnesses, because in truth, our consciousness is all collective. So there's not going to be someone who's worked out entirely, though there are some very elevated consciousnesses, and those that haven't. We're all kind of evolving together. So to assume that there are, you know, groups of beings that, you know, kind of like just blanket, like, you know, they're all good. Yeah, it's just like saying all your ancestors are good, you know.
Yeah.
And there are, you know, one of the sort of forms of Earth's, this particular planet, is we're in a system of harvesting.
Mhm.
We are harvesting for our survival. We are also being harvested. This is part of the dynamic of how things sustain. We pull in the sun's energy, the plants pull in the sun's energy, and things are generative harvest, but we can't assume that we're not being harvested.
Yeah.
And we don't even have to like look at galactic beings harvesting our consciousness. We've got, you know, humans here that are harvesting our consciousness and our attention for profit. It's just like, you know, things that are like from a fairy tale of another time are happening here. And there are beings, because we're on a planet of harvesting, we cannot assume that we are not being harvested, because that is the way things move here. You know, there's hunting, there's alpha, there's apex, you know, there's everything is pretty much relying on something else for their sustainability. Very few creatures have not that. So if something comes into this realm,
Yeah.
they're probably going to be harvesting something,
Mhm.
minerals, consciousness, beings, mana, to survive. So when there's these galactic beings, they're coming into the harvesting, you
Mm.
know, sort of paradigm. So it's, you know, it's great to have discernment. Just like when you go to a party, you have discernment. Like, does that person need something? Does that person, you know, want to harmonize? Does that person is just curious, soft, holding their own, or do they want something, you know? And so galactic beings are similar. You kind of need to have the same level of discernment. Um, there's definitely galactic beings that don't even appreciate us or like us and would like to have us. This is a precious planet. We're on the, you know, The
It is.
crown jewel. We're on the crown jewel, and a lot of beings would like to have this in whatever way and not the way we're using it. So, um, does that kind of answer that question? It was kind of, I went out there.
No, absolutely. That's so beautiful. I love what you said about this being the crown jewel. Um, from my understanding, this was created to be a very sacred place, a library per se, of all the interesting kind of creatures. The DNAs here were, they were all unique to them of themselves originally, you know, and so like the most beautiful plants, the most interesting animals, like we have really quite a variety here. This is a very special place in the multiverses and the galaxies, and yeah, it's a very special place. So I can understand why it would be wanted, and I can understand why, you know, um there are those clashes, and I tend to think of it as like a war, a galactic war, where different aspects are sort of trying to veer towards, you know, taking ownership of this sacred space. So there are those factors, and breeding is a very big factor in that, because those who breed the most of their genetics sort of get a leg up, if you will. So that there's that factor as well. We won't go too into that right now, but that is definitely a motivational point, I think.
Well, yeah, the breeding, intersects with, truth is we've inhabited multiple human forms.
Mm-hmm.
And we may actually have been a gray, or we've been, one of those invasive galactic beings. We could have easily have done that. And then we're like, well, wait, I want to go down on Earth. And we actually could be in training for how to be galactic beings again, either benevolent or, harvesting.
Yeah.
And there's, to the beings that are coming here right now for whatever their intentions or purposes are, they still are on the evolutionary journey with us.
Yeah.
And they feel that they can, sort of glean or receive something, either so that they have more power or life force or intelligence for their own evolution, which is the same thing we do. We're always gleaning. We eat the best foods, the supplements,
Yeah.
the freshest salmon, so their mind works better and our bodies work better. They're doing the same thing. They're looking, and we, when we breed as humans, we look for someone that's going to, we have this instinctual, so that, the best of us can be sort of ignited and we can create something else for the species of human. But we also, our bodies, we've talked about this. We're multidimensional beings. We're existing on multiple realms. And some of us have been part of, bringing the human DNA, which is actually a hybrid DNA, into other galactic, DNAs. It's just, yeah, it's not really, there's not the lines of grays and us. It's really like, how are we all evolving together, and under what sort of ethics and love and, kindness and respect is being done, and it applies to all the species. And we're kind of failing as humans. So, but we shouldn't,
Oops. Yeah. No, there's a lot of truth there. We are all evolving, and I do believe that all of our evolution matters to each other, whether we are conscious of it or not, because I believe as we evolve, and hopefully we are evolving, many of us are working towards that, but it also helps the galactic realms as well, because there's sort of like, we are on this sort of galactic and terrain kind of situation, and and the evolution has to sort of move up for all of us so that we can sort of get to those next levels. So we do have a ways to go, but we are working diligently on it, and I think there is that, like, a lot of us feel that innate passion, that desire, to upgrade, to activate our DNA, to recollect, like we consciously want to remember certain things and aspects. And I have done like many hypnosis sessions and many sort of things to sort of take these like blockages out of my consciousness, so that I can start to remember, because this is, to me, it's very important to remember who we are, where we came from, even the good, bad, and the ugly, because it all works together. You know, that's where we collect all of our wisdom. It's not just from the good, it's from every situation. And then we take the good from that, and we keep that, and we release the rest, you know.
What memories do you have, or what have you recalled about your galactic experiences or lifetimes? I mean, you're doing your whole book series is Awakening Starseeds. You know, you came with a very clear directive to even just bring that word into thousands of homes. You know, it's like you wanted this to be. So what you, I think of all the people I know, you would have some, you know, very deep memories. And what are your memories of your galactic origins or ties or things? Let's just go down there. What do you know?
Absolutely. Well, that would be, I think we're going to step into a part 2 for that, remembering our galactic lineage. But I did get a very direct download message to do these Awakening Starseed books, because they serve as activators. When each person, each one of us shares these stories, there is an activation in them. And we are here to help people regain their memories, because we've all been clean slated when we came here. You know, that's part of the process of being here, and that's what we agreed to. I mean, that was an agreement, right? But we do have the right to remember. You know, so that's our sovereignty. That's where we say, hey, that's where we can take creative control and start to activate and to work with those memories. So for me, that I just took that download that I got, do the Awakening Starseeds, you're going to do 11 of these books. And I was like, whoa, okay, I'll do it. But I don't know why, but I'm going to do it. And I do know why. It's because it's part of the awakening process. We have to remember we're an intergalactic family. And that we're not just, we can be prejudiced, and we can also be too like welcoming. So we have to find the balance, and we have to remember. And that's all part of the process, is remembering our past so that we can elevate our future that we're co-creating together now.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, it's been, you know, right now I've been talking about this splitting timelines thing, and it's really a way of describing timelines, really a frequency. You know, we exist in so many different timelines or frequencies in one moment. You know, we have our, you know, frequencies of our past, you know, Akashic and childhood frequencies, and we have our moment here, and then we also have our future visionary selves, like we're imagining what we're going to do and what we're going to produce, the next books. But so in this, you know, relationship of frequencies, it is becoming one part of the things of this timeline splitting, the frequency splitting, is that the frequencies, we're more affected by frequencies, but and so knowing how to protect our frequency as we interact with other frequencies and consciousnesses, which is taking place, you know, beings, galactic beings. I also want to hear more of your stories of your experience of interactions with, you know, galactic beings, because they are, some people get to have those experiences and some don't, but whether you do or not, it's happening.
Yeah.
Most of these beings actually they don't even move through the universe in a form that we'd recognize. So we don't see it. But the practices for kind of restoring and protecting our frequency are very old. You know, these have been, that's what one clue, that the tasks of meditating and learning how to set up, you know, barriers, energetic barriers, clearing your energetic body, the understanding of salt, you know, clearing your field, knowing how to clear your field is really important. And these practices are so old. You know, it makes you realize that these are things that have been carried for centuries, because we need to know how to do them. And I feel that right now with this frequency split, and this round circle, you know, with this frequency split, the veil's lifting, knowing these practices of how to protect your frequency, how to protect your space, and staying in your own, you know, sort of sovereign energetic space is really important right now, actually. And it, you know, it's it's important how you interact in the physical world on the screen, everything we do, but it's important on so many multidimensional levels right now.
Would you mind,
know?
like, so you guys, we're gonna do this. What we're gonna do is